more diligently wisdom, knowledge, and understanding as we look to further the city's major projects, particularly Alexander Island, and begin planning for our next fiscal year with headwinds and challenges. We are grateful for the many positive things we see in our city and the many achievements during the first 5 years of our city manager's tenure. We appreciate the interest of our residents in understanding the city and getting involved in it. This was so evident last evening as we began the 5th Citizens Academy. Help us this evening as we seek to be the best representatives for those who have chosen us to serve their interests. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk, would you do the roll call?
Councilmember Sell.
Here.
Councilmember Papalardo. Councilmember Stevenson.
Here.
Mayor Chazet.
Here.
Vice Mayor Butlin.
Here. This is the regular City Council meeting for the month of April. And as such, there's an opportunity for residents or to speak on any item they choose that is not on the agenda for 3 minutes per speaker. William Taylor, do you want to come to the podium and speak? Okay, great.
I want to give it to the city clerk.
Give it to the city clerk and then you can begin your comments. Yep.
That'll work.
Yep.
Okay. Let me talk about this guy, Mark.
Turn the microphone.
Okay, speak into the mic first. We need your name and address for the record.
Richard, turn the mic on.
William Russell Taylor.
All right,
Hold on
we're going
one
to turn the mic on for you. It doesn't appear to be on.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Am I on?
Yes.
Okay, I want to chat briefly about the comments made by Mark, whoever he was, last meeting, and he was talking about this project going in, and he said that black bears are not protected, which is a lie. Black bears are absolutely protected by federal or by state law. They you cannot feed them, you cannot shoot them, you cannot move them, you cannot mess with their habitat, you cannot disturb their habitat. The fine for doing so is $1,000 up to 1 year imprisonment. Here, there's a list of people that I just handed out. You can call them. Don't take my word for it. Call Fish and Wildlife and confirm that these are the facts. The guy's lying to you. Don't believe him. I wouldn't believe anything that man says. Did he give you an environmental impact study? Yes or no? Did he hand you one?
Finish your comments. We don't go back and forth during this period. You provide your comments to us.
Okay. His environmental impact study, Fish and Game wants to know, did he look at endangered species specifically? And did he mitigate the lake water on the property? Who did that study? And is that study worth a can of beans? Because it probably isn't if he did it. He's a liar. Game over.
Thank you for your comments. I believe the project you're speaking of is in development review. There are laws that they have to follow, and there will be studies done by not the lawyer representing the developer, but by acknowledged authorities in the area compliant with the Florida law in all sections. I believe that the statement may have related to it. The bear is not on the endangered species list. So, but that is something that can be addressed as the process moves forward. Currently, it's in environmental review, and there's a whole series of things that need to happen before the project goes forward.
Good.
But thank you for coming to participate.
Can I ask one question?
You may, we're not going to have it
Okay,
interchanged,
that's
though.
okay. How long is this environmental review supposed to last? Do you have any idea? A month, 2 months, 5 months?
City manager can respond briefly. We're not having a back and forth on a
No,
development
that's
not
okay.
before
I
us.
just want
It's something that you can get from the city. We can tell you what the process is.
Yeah, you can set up a meeting with our growth management department. But this project is coming, next council meeting, I believe, May 1st or May 15th. It's coming to the city council meeting for approval. These environmental studies are all done after the approval. All these studies, in order for him to move forward and actually construct this particular project, all these studies and these permits have got to come from all the state agencies that regulate all these factors.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
First item on our agenda this evening is the approval of minutes. We have minutes from the regular city council meeting of March 6th, the city council workshop of March 20th, and the special city council meeting of March 20th.
Move to approve the minutes as listed?
Second.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, we will move on to presentation, and I invite Sid Villain Jr., our representative with the Volusia Growth Management Commission, to the podium for an update.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, as the mayor has stated, I'm your representative to Volusia County Growth Management Commission, which was formed by county charter in the mid-1980s. We have 17 independent governments in the county, and by charter and proclamation therein, each government is a member of the VGMC. The VGMC reviews all comprehensive land plans to promote cooperation among these 17 local governments and expedites the land planning for comprehensive plans. And that is working. The process is quite speedy and works very well. We're in the first of our new year, and there are 2 sheets I've given you. One is a required proclamation by VGMC declaring a weighted vote based on population. And that sheet, which you have, shows each of the 17 governments and the weighted vote by population. The second sheet shows our annual budget, and I submit that for your information. Volusia County Council actually funds 100% of operations of VGMC since that was formed by county charter. VGMC costs nothing regarding each local government. As your representative, I've tried to come and give you an update report once or twice a year. I'm proud to say that I have been the longest-termed chair of VGMC in the history since the mid-'80s, and I was termed out by operating rules, and we have a new chair. There are 3 officers. There's the chair, the vice chair, and secretary and chair of the budget committee. The secretary is a dual function who automatically serves as chairman of the budget committee. And in that I stepped down as chair, I was asked by the membership this for the next 2 years, or until my term is up with the city of DeBary, to serve as secretary to VGMC and chair of the budget committee. It has been a real pleasure serving. It's a major commitment to serve, especially as chair. I have reported that in the past, and things are going well. We have an outstanding VGMC manager who's been there for many years. And basically, unless there are questions, that's the end of my report.
Well, thank you for coming to give us the report. I do have a quick question. Since you are the head of the Budget Committee, maybe you could answer this. Just out of curiosity, the main change for the proposed coming year budget is under contract services with a substantial increase. And could you tell us what you anticipate is coming before VGMC in the coming year that will increase contract services costs?
A very simple answer.
I thought so.
Actually, the regular budget lines are basically the same year after year.
Yes, everything
without
else was
much of a
pretty
change.
consistent, yes.
For the first time in history, there is a lawsuit by the city of Ormond Beach against the city of Daytona Beach. And this relates to an annexation and a application for a comprehensive land use plan change. Ormond Beach is objecting to the fairly large annexation and comp plan change, and unfortunately, when they sued Daytona Beach, they had to name VGMC as a party to the lawsuit. We are hoping, against hope, that between Ormond and Daytona Beach, our manager, our planning staff, and our legal representatives are encouraging the two cities to settle this lawsuit, but we had to put in money and went to our county representatives to identify this, and that is being approved, and that's strictly a one-shot inclusion, and we don't know what it'll run, but that is the reason we had
Right.
to put that in.
That makes a lot of sense. And I will say that the manager for VGMC has always spoken very highly of your contributions, and that redounds positively to DeBary, and I appreciate your service. Is there anyone else that had anything to say? Thank you very much.
As I always say, I very much honor the appointment on behalf of you members of the council, and I've served at your pleasure and continue to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now this evening, we have another presentation, one that we do each year, and I would like to invite Jim Cannon up to the podium to say a few words. We're going to have a proclamation for Water Conservation Month, and you may recall that we do this every year because it is a concern that does not go away. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. Mayor and council members, we thank you for bringing attention to this important issue. We do this every year. We declare April as Water Conservation Month across the state of Florida. It's a good reminder, but I don't want people to think it's only for that 1 month. Water conservation is something that can be applied, I guess, year-round in terms of monitoring your water usage and just being cognizant of how much water you use for various things. This year there is a special emphasis on leak detection. So this is a great time of year maybe on a Saturday or Sunday, you got nothing going on, check inside the house and outside, toilets, sinks, even washing machines, as well as outdoor spigots, irrigation systems. I know it's tough if they're buried, like sprinkler systems, but anything you can do to help kind of stave off wasted water, it helps everybody in the state, and this is something every individual Floridian can do.
Yes, it is. So I would like to issue this proclamation. Whereas water is a basic and essential need of every living creature, and whereas the state of Florida, water management districts, and the city of DeBary are working together to increase awareness about the importance of water conservation, and whereas the city of DeBary and the state of Florida have designated April, typically a dry month, when water demands are most acute, as Florida's Water Conservation Month to educate citizens about how they can help save Florida's precious water resources, and whereas every business, industry, school, and citizen can make a difference when it comes to conserving water, and whereas every business, industry, and citizen can help by saving water and thus promote a healthy economy and community. Whereas outdoor irrigation comprises a large portion of water use, the city of DeBary will encourage citizens and businesses to focus on improving outdoor irrigation efficiency. Now therefore I, Karen Chazet, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of DeBary, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Water Conservation Month in the city of DeBary, and call upon each citizen and business to help protect our precious resource by practicing water-saving measures and becoming more aware of the need to save water. For this, the 26th year of Water Conservation Month, there will be a special focus on improving outdoor irrigation efficiency. In witness thereof, I have hereto set my hand and cause the seal of the city of DeBary to be affixed this third day of April 2024. Thank you so much,
Certainly appreciate it.
and I appreciate you coming to share with us.
Thank you all. Good night.
Next on our agenda is our first public hearing. Item number 4, the staff is requesting the City Council approve the second reading of ordinance number 06-2024, adopting Appendix 1, Live Local Act, to the city's Land Development Code, establishing definitions, procedures, regulations, and criteria for the review and approval of mixed-use residential developments pursuant to Florida's Live Local Act. City Attorney, would you read ordinance number 06-2024?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 06-2024, an ordinance of the City of DeBary, Florida, adopting Appendix 1 to the city's Land Development Code, establishing procedures, regulations, and criteria for the review and approval of mixed-use residential developments pursuant to Florida's Live Local Act, providing for codification, conflict, severability, and an effective date.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Stephen Babb, Growth Management Director. I'll be giving the presentation on this ordinance. As this is the second reading, I'll go a little quicker through the slide presentation, but all the data is in front of you and in your staff reports. On July 1st, 2023, the Florida legislature amended the state statutes and enacted a Live Local Act with the intent of promoting the construction for affordable housing. Although it does seem to be a simplified and expedited process for inclusionary housing rules, it does have some concerns in the fact that it lacks many terms, and also it preempts some local zoning laws under specific conditions. And once again, there are about 8 things we're concerned with. The first thing really is that a multifamily and mixed-use residential would be allowed in any area which was zoned for commercial, industrial, or mixed uses. You can see that this could have a great impact on our future land use planning and our city's infrastructure and ability to support such a development. There's also the fact that this act states that the highest density should be permitted anywhere this this development would be put into the city based on the highest density allowed within the city of DeBary, for which now that would be 30 units per acre because our TOD has that density. Also, we cannot limit the height. The height shall be the highest height permitted within 1 mile of such development. Also, the development needs to be administratively approved, to which the city council would have no approval or denial authority. Also, the municipality must consider reduced parking if it's within a certain radius of a mass transit stop. And one thing is, if a local government designated less than 20% of its land for commercial or industrial uses, then it must have, the multifamily development must only be developed as a mixed-use residential. In the city of DeBary, our land use is under that 20% threshold, so anything coming forward would be a mixed-use residential type development. So I'm just breaking down some of the concerns on the larger bill, is that there are really very unclear definitions throughout the act, which need to be defined. There are certain uncertainties on what type of units would be permitted, the architectural design guidelines, and other characteristics which our basic land development code has for other developments. Also, there's concerns the city has for its great impact on infrastructure. If you put a 30 unit per acre development in a commercial area which has 0 units per acre designated, this would significantly impact our ability to support that through water, traffic, and other type of concurrency issues. Currently, there are no regulations guaranteeing long-term affordability of any of the units. There's no established process for auditing. And really, we must ask, does this act align with the city's commitment towards a safe, equitable, and a built environment with adequate living standards for all its residents? So we are bringing forward Appendix 1 of our Land Development Code, which will be called the Live Local Act Appendix. We'll outline the definitions and criteria for these developments. We'll ensure the safety and public health is guarded. We'll facilitate the advancement of affordable multifamily housing, and we'll affirm the necessity for mixed-use residential configurations, and we will define the applicable zoning districts for which they can be put forward. Other things are on your slide you see before you, but the purpose of the act really is to have a set of standards any Live Local Act would be placed under, which really, excuse me, on.
I don't think it's a sign.
Okay, I was almost hit by lightning one time, so it kind of freaks me out a little bit. Sorry about that. It'll confirm the max density and square footage of all units, will enhance the development criteria and architectural standards, which are important to the city and have already been established in our land development code for other units, and will acknowledge the expiration date per Florida statute subject to legislative extension. So where can a Live Local unit go? Well, MRDs, MURDs, which they will be called, would be prohibited in any planned unit development, as a planned unit development is a contractual zoning specific to that piece of land. The MURDs would be permissible in the following zoning district: B2 neighborhood commercial, B4 general commercial, B5 heavy commercial, B6 highway interchange commercial, and I1 light industrial. Dependence regulations which we will bring forward will supersede any conflicting commercial or industrial zoning district regulations. The multifamily units in the MURDs must adhere to the most restrictive regulations of the multifamily zoning districts. And as I stated earlier, we saw there were many things that were not defined in the act. The terms on the slide will be defined in our Appendix 1, which will define the term administrative approval, define the term affordable housing, commercial as it relates to the Florida statute. We'll define the term multifamily dwelling. We define the term height within 1 mile, which the Act uses. We'll define the term mixed-use residential, which the statute states but does not define. Also other terms such as what rent is and urban sprawl. Eligibility requirements. 40% of the units brought forward must be and remain in the affordable criteria for at least 30 years. The mixed-unit residential development shall have a maximum of 65% square footage designated as residential uses and a minimum of 35% designated as commercial uses. This will ensure the mixed-use nature of any type of development. Other eligibility requirement follows a lot along the line of normal other developments, is that they have to fulfill all approval processes requirements as specified in the code, adhere to the recording and legal requirements, of course, and the MURD shall incorporate a blend of dwelling units, which means you can't have like one building set aside for affordable housing. They have to be integrated and seamless with the entire development. The approval process will begin with the submission of a development review application, which will be available online through our CitizenServe system. And the application has to include site development plans, income qualification commitment affidavits, and details on monitoring and inspection. It will have a sufficiency review by the city, as normal applications will, before it begins moving into the formal approval process. Our formal approval process and the administrative process, as dictated by the Florida statute, would be administered and handled through the Development Review Committee, a panel already established in our code, which consists of staff experts such as the growth management director, engineer, public works, fire marshal, and building official. Here are the minimum requirements for compliance with the Live Local Act, which handle a lot of affidavits and commitment and restrictive covenants, which will need to be provided prior to getting administratively approved. Also, they will follow the regulations as detailed in our Chapter 3 City Code of Administrative Processes. That's how the DRC runs things. They'll have a detailed timeline for review, approval, fee structure, and approval duration. And equitable treatment of dwelling units are listed in the annex. The things such as height, density, setback, size of units, amenity requirements, parking, site requirements, buffering, and architectural standards are all outlined in this appendix. The audit process. They will provide affidavits and listings of the verified income of residents to verify that they do meet with that criteria, and that will be audited every year for compliance. All these are outlined in the Live Local Act appendix. Here are some more highlights of what the audit process will involve. So based on our staff analysis of this appendix and its relationship to the Live Local Act of the Florida statute, staff recommends the City Council approve the second reading or the adoption of Ordinance 6-2024, which is the proposed inclusion of Appendix 1, the Live Local Act, the city's Land Development Code, establishing definitions, procedures, regulations, and criteria for review and approval of the mixed-use residential developments pursuant to the Florida's Live Local Act. If voted and approved tonight, the ordinance will go into effect and will be codified within the existing and the future Land Development Code. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay, Councilmember Sell, do you have any questions or comments?
No comments.
Councilmember Stevenson?
No questions, thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Good thing we don't have a bigger city. I don't know, with the smaller land parcels, I think this is going to work really well for us, and it benefits us quite a bit, so that's it for me.
Yeah. And I think that most of our questions were addressed at the first reading, so I don't have anything further, unless you had something substantial that changed from first to second reading that you wanted to highlight.
There were no substantial changes based on the input from the
Right.
council and further review of laws. There are no additions from the first reading. It
Thank
remains
you.
the same.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve, after this, I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance number 04-2024, proposed inclusion of Appendix 1, Live Local Act of the City's Land Development Code, establishing definitions, procedures, regulations, and criteria for the review and approval of mixed-use residential developments pursuant to Florida's Live Local Act.
Second?
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes. We move on to new business. Agenda item number 5. The city manager is requesting the city council approve a proposal from Dale Beasley Construction for stormwater construction services for 670 Bernasek Drive Drainage Improvement Project.
Good evening, Mayor Chazé,
Good evening.
council members. Forgive me, my voice is a little.
Okay.
This evening, city manager is requesting city council to approve a proposal from Dale Beasley Construction for stormwater construction services for 670 Bernasek Drive Drainage Improvement Project. The purpose of the project is to improve the existing drainage system of Bernasek Drive and to prevent severe erosion caused by stormwater runoff from the city's right-of-way. David, could you show the pictures? The first picture is going to show in the corner of the home at 670 Bernasek Drive, and if you just come
Yeah.
to the next picture, and then even into the third picture, these are all areas within a drainage easement that is
Right.
sitting.
Could you move the mic over just a little bit so that your voice is picked up by the recording?
Okay.
Thank you, much better.
So the eastern end of Bernasek Drive in the Summerhaven subdivision includes a 20-foot drainage easement. It was originally platted with this easement, and it's between the residences of 670 Bernasek Drive and 665 Bernasek Drive. As it was originally constructed, the majority of the runoff from that section of Bernasek Drive is it finds its way and is directed towards this drainage easement at the end of the street. And right now it's just a grassed swale that outlets into a FDOT retention area along Interstate 4. The drainage easement is dedicated to the city for maintenance of the stormwater system. During Hurricane Ian, approximately 15 inches of rain caused the damage that you see here, the erosion in the grass swale between the homes. This erosion caused damage to the septic system and the drain field of the residents at 670 Bernasek Drive. The residents, Mr. and Mrs. Joslin of 670 Bernasek Drive, have expressed extreme concerns. They've restored this area, but they have real concerns about the reoccurrence of this erosion during extreme events, and they've asked the city to improve the system. So with that, city engineer Richard Villasenor and staff developed construction plans in-house and the specifications to make these drainage improvements and to address this erosion in 670 Bernasek Drive. My company prepared the proposal documents and requested pricing for the project from Dale Beasley Construction under a piggyback agreement that is existing with the city of DeBary. Dale Beasley Construction is under a continuing contract with the city of Winter Garden, Florida for stormwater construction services. The City of Winter Garden continuing contract is suitable for authorization by the City of DeBary under this January 13th, 2022 piggyback agreement with Dale Beasley Construction. The staff has negotiated with Dale Beasley Construction to develop the proposal for the 670 Bernasek Drive project that is before council tonight. Pricing for the project as received from Dale Beasley Construction is in the amount of $42,625.18. Dale Beasley Construction has confirmed the project will take approximately 60 days to manufacture the appropriate stormwater structures and then have them delivered, and then approximately 20 or so days to actually complete the work. My company, K Hair Construction Services, task order 03-0324-02 is attached to this agenda item for council approval. The purpose of the work task order is to establish a budget for construction management and inspection services for the 670 Bernasek Drive project. The proposed budget amount is not to exceed $6,380. All work is invoiced on an hourly basis at the direction of the city manager. Construction management and inspection of the project is required to administer the construction contract and recommend payment to the contractor. Funding for the project is budgeted from the Stormwater Fund reserves. So it is recommended that City Council accept the proposal from Dale Beasley Construction Incorporated in the amount of $42,625.18 and to approve work authorization for the construction of the 670 Bernasek Drive Drainage Improvement Project. Recommendation includes a contingency budget of 10% or $4,262.52 to be included for a total budget amount of $46,887.70. It is also recommended the City Council approve work order 0324-02 to K Hair Construction Services for construction management and inspection services as related to the 670 Bernasek Drive Drainage Improvement Project for the amount of $6,380. And as I said, approximately 60 days to manufacture the parts and 20 days to complete the work. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
It's been a few days since Ian has come to pass. Is this just proof that government works very slowly? Mr.
Well, this particular issue was fixed by the homeowner. It's not a threat in this particular point in time. So, yes, and working with Dale Beasley and everything else, a lot of work has went into our staff doing the engineering and everything else to get this accomplished. So,
Thankfully, the residents have been patient, but yeah, this needs to get taken care of ASAP. Thank you.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yeah, so what is this, this is what we're looking at now, where the washout areas. What is this going to look like when it's done?
Grass, but the section that you see in that picture will have an underground, there'll be a stormwater inlet with a pipe running in that, basically where that erosion is, out to a outfall structure with riprap and all that around the
Okay.
outfall. So,
All right, thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
I have no comments, just like to get that done and taken care of.
Yeah.
It's an eyesore.
Well, I think that the homeowner, to their credit, has taken care of some of the way it looks right now. This is to show us that it was a real issue. I definitely think we need to act on this now because it needs to be done before we have another storm season. We sort of were fortunate last year not to have major storms come through, but this is something that obviously needs the city attention, and that's why we have a stormwater reserve, is to take care of problems that emerge. So is there further discussion, or I would entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Dale Beasley Construction, Inc. in the amount of $42,625.18 and approve a work authorization for construction of the 670 Bernasek Drive Drainage Improvement Project. Recommendation to include a contingency budget of 10% or $4,262.52 to be included in the total budget amount of $46,887.70. It is also recommended that the City Council approve work order number 0324-02 to K Hair Construction Services, LLC, for construction management and inspection services related to the 670 Bernasek Drive Drainage Improvement Project in the amount of $6,380. Yeesh.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Thank you, Mr. Hare. We are moving on to Agenda item number 6 under new business, the staff requests the city council approve 2 wetland mitigation options for meeting St. John's River Water Management District permit requirements as follows. Approve the use of recently acquired wetlands properties as local wetland mitigation, and the alternate option to purchase the needed 0.20 credits from the TM Econ Mitigation Bank in the amount of $24,000.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, everyone. I'm before you with another wetlands mitigation.
You are Richard Villasenor, city manager, city engineer?
City engineer.
Yes.
Getting carried away. Again, the purpose for this is to meet the Water Management District permitting requirements for them to issue the construction approval. And this, again, is for the Fort Florida Road construction project from Barwick Road to the Sunrail Station. In consideration here is the, with the city wetland properties that we do have, there's an opportunity to use those as local mitigation instead of going outside city limits. The standard process is, of course, to do the offsite mitigation at a mitigation bank. With mitigation banking, their pricing is fixed. All that is regulated by the state, so there's really no applicability for a formal request for proposal in this case. Included here for comparison is our 3 mitigation banks, all with the same cost in this case for the amount of credits that we need. The selection of either mitigation bank will be acceptable. The TM Econ is what's being recommended by the environmental on this project. The cost funding, well, with the 2 options, the first being the use of the city property. There is a cost associated in that we'll have to do a environmental assessment. We'll have to have survey for preparing the conservation easement, and then we'll also have legal to do the conservation easement language, and then the back and forth with St. John's. That's an estimated cost of $30,000. The other option is to approve the cost of $24,000 for the TM Econ Mitigation Bank of 0.2 credits. This cost will be allocated to fund 312, the Fort Florida Road Improvement Fund. That was approved in the fiscal year 23-24 budget. The recommendation is for the recommended the City Council approve the use of city-owned wetland property for use as local mitigation, which includes an expense of $30,000 for the environmental, legal, and survey efforts for the St. John's approval, or approve the payment of the $24,000 for the TM Econ Mitigation Bank for project wetland impacts. The implementation, if no construction delays are presented by using the city wetland properties, that the St. John's allows us to issue the permit and proceed with the arrangement, then we will go that route. Otherwise, if delays are pending for the construction of the Fort Florida Road construction project, then we'll go with the purchasing the offsite mitigation credits. And then on the screen, as you can see, is the Fort Florida Road project limits essentially, and it indicates kind of where the wetland impacts are occurring, mainly by the to the east at the railroad on either side, and a little bit kind of toward the center along the south side is where the impacts are occurring. The property that we're looking to use as local mitigation is the wetland property in blue there. It's essentially located just south of the DeBerry Mansion, north of Dirksen, just west of Mansion Boulevard. So that's kind of what we're looking at. In total, that's 35 acres, but the district has indicated that they would exclude the utility easements from the easement, from the conservation easement. We're still getting some additional details from the district, and once we have additional information, I'm sure I'll be back up here to explain that one.
Okay. Thank you very much. City Clerk, do you have any public participation?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Okay. Councilmember Sell, questions and comments?
No comments.
Councilmember Stevenson?
I'm trying to figure out what exactly is the difference between our two options here besides cost. It's 30,000 or 24,000, and so we're either using a city property or we're going outside of the city?
Yes, if we use the city property as mitigation, and Richard can and correct me if I'm wrong, it will provide us much more credits that we will be able to use for future projects. I'm not exactly sure how many credits they will give us. Let's suppose there's 25 acres of wetlands here. Does that give us 25 acres of credits? And that will be determined in our negotiations with St. John's Water Management District. This particular wetland mitigation is 0.2 acres. But we have projects down the line, like the 5 acres next to the fire station, the High Bank Stormwater Project. All those are going to require a little bit of mitigation. And rather to continue to pay into a mitigation bank, if we already have those credits available, then we can just bounce those credits as they come towards this particular property.
So in other words, even though it seems like it costs a little bit more up front with the $30,000, there's a benefit long-term.
Long-term, but
Right.
Okay, thank you. I just
Major.
wanted to make sure I was understanding it properly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
I have no further comments.
Personally, I think that there's great value in us getting as many mitigation credits as we can for this property that we purchased, just so we would not disturb these wetlands. And because we will need to do mitigation, by my recollection, we did have a vote on the cost of wetlands mitigation for the fire station property. By my recollection, it was about $10,000, is that correct, or 30?
I believe it was
30?
41,000.
41,000. If you are saying that that mitigation was not immediately contracted, and we could, instead of going over to Farmton, which was what the council approved for that, if we could go and get credits from ourselves, that in itself already puts us at 10,000, 11,000 to the good, not even counting this particular 0.20 acres. Now, it may not be acre for acre or whatever, but to me, it is important for us to see whether we can get the mitigation credits assigned to this project so that we have them in our pocket for when we need them, because while I know it is the law that we can mitigate the wetlands on the fire station project by purchasing credits over in Farmton, it doesn't honestly do very much for me. We have wetlands impacted in our city, and something somewhere else is standing in its stead. I much prefer that wetlands in our city are what we preserve with our wetlands mitigation credits. So my strong encouragement would be to do everything we can to make the mitigation credits available on this city-owned property, understanding that if it becomes an issue where it would delay the reconstruction, which has to be done primarily in the summer when there's no school and all sorts of other considerations, if it's an impediment to getting the project done, we may have to buy these. I am curious as to what the recommendation is. TM Econ Mitigation Bank, the costs are all the same. What is special about TM as opposed to Farmton, which we thought we would use before, et cetera?
In this case, they're both regionally impactful, as the
Right.
environmental placed it, and this was just one that they've worked on before, and I believe the Rivington Development actually
Has used that before as well?
Exactly.
Okay. Again, my first priority my preference for a first priority would be to do everything we can to take city-owned property that we purchased to keep the wetlands intact, and then use that for our personal mitigation bank, to the extent that we can, and to the extent that we don't need to move forward with Farmton for the fire station. That would be, all to the good. We'd be significantly in a better financial position if we were able to do that and Fort Florida Road from our own property.
And if we do pay the $24,000 to move the Fort Florida Road construction forward, we will still do the other.
We still need to do the other one.
Long term, it just benefits us to be able to not have to pay these fees you basically already paid them when you purchased the property, so.
Okay, so my question is, what is it that we are deciding tonight? Are we going to decide that no matter what we do with the mitigation credits needed for Fort Florida between Barwick and the railroad tracks, we will pursue this at a cost of $30-some thousand, and we hope that we will not need to buy mitigation credits for $24,000 on top of that? How do we structure a motion that says we are approving both going forward with the $24,000 only being if we absolutely have to do it? Yes.
Not a question, but I think you could state your preference that you will move forward with using the city-owned wetlands as, what you've banked, and you'll
Right.
first need to work that out with the
Yes,
with the
right.
district. And then as the second backup plan would be to use or have to purchase those credits if you run into some sort of
Right.
time crunch.
But I would like this action tonight to cover both, so that the city manager doesn't have to come back to us and say, now we tried to do this, but now we have to do both. That would be my preference. Of course, I will not offer this motion. If there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion by someone.
Well, Mayor,
Yes.
I recommend a motion just recommend a motion that you
Yes.
can say is that you approve the mitigation with the property on Dirksen Drive or Magnolia Drive, and that if necessary, you also approve the purchase of the mitigation with TM Econ for $24,000 if necessary.
Okay. I am open for a motion from someone that would like to posit it and have a second if there is one.
And you could probably just say, so moved, as the city manager said.
So moved, as the city manager said.
Yeah, very good.
Second,
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes.
Patricia.
We're moving on to agenda item number 7. The city manager is requesting the city council approve the Fort Florida Road Bridge and Spillway Improvement Agreement between Florida Power and Light Company and the city of DeBary. So who gets to do this after all these years'
I
work?
do. It's been a long time, and we do have a couple folks from FP&L here as well. We've been working on this a long time, and so just again, background, last month you approved the St. John's Water Management District grant from the state of Florida, and that particular contract. This is the second contract that goes along with that, so that collectively the state, FP&L, and the city of DeBary will move forward to get this done. So, but just for a little background for folks who may not know where we are. The Florida Power and Light Spillway, and I just use FPL, which is quicker, simpler, and faster. FPL Spillway is on the west side of Lake Conomac. Lake Conamac's approximately 1,200 acres above ground, man-made industrial wastewater reservoir that they use to cool their turbines. And it's from there, they are able to manage the level of Lake Conomac through their spillway out to the St. Johns River. So that they can manage the level of the lake and preserve the berm and the areas around that. This is their spillway on the west side. It is capable of handling 2,200 or issuing 2,200 cubic feet per second. There are actually 4 gates there. Unfortunately, the spillway underneath the bridge can only hold about 400 cubic feet per second. And the spillway that goes out from the bridge out to the river can only hold 400 cubic feet per second. I think when all this was built a long time ago, nobody imagined that development would come to Barry and out in that particular area out there. It does pose a flooding threat in case of a emergency where they had to release more than 400 cubic feet per second. And so that, as you know, that we had some old overall development plans that were approved. We did not move that development forward, but however, I believe that property will come forward council here in the next 6 to 9 months of a possible development over there, as known as River Bend North. This is just a couple pictures, a picture that we've taken from Hurricane Ian. This is where they were releasing about 400 to 500 cubic feet per second out of that one gate. We're standing on the bridge. The bridge is completely full. It shows the capacity of that underneath the bridge is already established with one gate. And these are some of the pictures that we have presented to the Florida legislature, and they're the ones that allocated the $1 million grant through St. John's Water Management District. With that, Hurricane Ian, as you can see on the left and on the right, it certainly damages the bridge underneath. These are the slope areas that protect the foundation of the bridge. They have eroded away, and ultimately the bridge is still in good condition. However, future water releases will eventually find its way to the foundation, and that's where we need to improve the bridge. This is just the overall development plan. As you remember, we purchased Alexander Island 14 months ago, and that's the overall development plan that was originally approved, and that yellow line there is the spillway that goes through that particular development. The new development that will come through, even though that we are repairing the bridge, the new development that will come in will be responsible to upgrade the spillway from the bridge to the river. And we've already had discussions with the potential buyer of that particular property and let them know of their responsibilities, that they will have to upgrade that particular sector. So this is the agreement. This particular agreement basically authorizes the city of DeBary and Florida Power and Light to put $500,000 into an escrow account held by Fishback Law Firm. And as we go through this particular process, the city of DeBary is responsible for the engineering and responsible for the construction. We will draw down on these accounts on an as-needed basis to get this bridge complete. This is tonight we'll be approving the FP&L and DeBary contract. Engineering should be completed by February 2025. Construction then will be from that time all the way to June 2026. So it's not going to be a very quick process. It is a box culvert type of design where there'll be 3 box culverts, as you can see there in blue. That will funnel the water through there and then into the spillway beyond the bridge. And then on the red line above is actually the level of the road. We will be building the road and the trail next to the road there as well. So if you're standing on FP&L property at the spillway gates, this is what it would look like from that point going through underneath the bridge. And so that will provide that. So Mayor and Council, it's been a long time coming, but I think we finally got there, and I think we'll do a good job in preserving the property to the west and eliminating all of the flooding issues, potential flooding issues, if there was a devastating event. So.
Or just a hurricane.
Or just
Just a rainstorm.
Okay. City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
All right. Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
Just reading between the lines, it looks like FPL has been playing hard to get for the last 4 years as far as kicking in any kind of funding for this bridge.
Well, there's been a lot of negotiations back and forth about responsibility, about who's responsible for what, et cetera, et cetera. With this agreement, we will be providing a FP&L currently doesn't have an easement underneath our bridge to push that water. And but with this agreement, the city will be issuing a permanent easement through our bridge here. And so all those historical issues that existed in the past will hopefully be resolved once this agreement's approved. The bridge is built, the easements are provided, and then we can move forward with the assurances that, and when we talk about a devastating event, it's just not only a hurricane. The integrity of the berm, they have a lot of folks that protect the berm and manage the berm and everything else. If at such time that should get compromised, and they needed to release the water, and that's another event that could possibly require more additional water being released than just a hurricane, so.
Were they required to put in some money into the pot, or is that just out of the kindness of their heart?
Well, that's hard to answer. It's as we work through the legal ramifications with the FDEP and the NPDES permit, a lot of those discussions about who's responsible, rather than going to the legal process and determine in the courts who's going to be responsible for this particular bridge. The negotiations was intense, but it was make sure that okay, I think we get to a solution without going through the courts to determine who's fully responsible, who's not.
That's all I got.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Thank you. Yes, in reviewing this, I see we are approving this tonight, but then we're going to do the engineering. What are the chances that this is going to cost more than the $2 million that is listed, planned?
Well, according to our engineers and everything else, this is pretty simple construction. It is box culverts. They manufacture the box culverts. They haul them in. They'll drop them in. Now, during this particular process, this road will be closed. I'm sorry. But it will be closed for the period of construction. And timing of that construction is important because you obviously don't want to do it during hurricane season. And so the timing and all that, but this is fairly simple. It's not a bridge like normally you have to build foundations and you build a span. This is a very simple concept where you build box culverts. They are the foundation for this particular bridge, and then basically you pave right over it. And so it's a very simple construction. So we've tried to build inflation into this. The price that you see here is more than double what the original
We started with, yes.
we started with. So
Yeah, well, especially since it says that if it goes over $2 million, then we're responsible for any of the extra. So I'm glad that you feel confident with that. And then if we get to the point where we're engineering it and looking at it again, and for some reason the price has doubled or exceeded, gone even higher, we still have the opportunity with the money in escrow to back out and give everybody their stuff back? Or no?
well,
We're
when
committed
you
to
start
doing it.
engineering, you start expending the money.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
yeah, we'll have to make that determination going forward. But we're pretty confident that we can get this thing engineered and built for this particular price here.
All right, thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I have a few choice words about this. This is a project I call the square peg in the round hole. I've been saying that for years, I think. Somewhere along the way, it just got misrepresented. It was built this way, and I don't know why. All I kept thinking were the cows were going to be in the river one day, and, you know, when it was cows back then. Now we're looking to develop, and I'm great that we got this before that gets developed. I know the road's going to have to be closed, and that's a tough one. Your trip thing is probably me going 20 times a day back and forth. But it needs to get done. So I'm all for this. I think it's a long time coming, but it needs to get done, and I'm glad we're got in a position where we can get it done. So thank you.
I would say I am glad to be at this juncture. It is one of those things that initially was the big puzzler. How could you have a release capacity 4 times the capacity of the road and structure to carry it? However, that happened. And I was always concerned about the washout from the road to the river, even undeveloped. That would be a massive dump of earth and silt and other things into the St. Johns River. The situation is untenable as it is. So I am glad that with the years of negotiations and the cooperation of the legislature and the St. Johns River Management, that we have reached a resolution that I think is a sound one. I, too, am dependent on that section of road, so when this is closed, it means a major disruption. It adds 6 miles to every time I go in my normal path, extra to go north, to come south, but it has to be done. So I appreciate everybody's efforts to getting it across the line. I would entertain a motion if there's no further discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Fort Florida Road Bridge and Spillway Improvement Agreement.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. That is the last of our agenda items, and we move on to member reports. Councilmember Sell, do you have anything to report?
Remind everybody that this Saturday, we're going to be giving away trees right here in City Hall parking lot. And Sunday, we have our pancake breakfast at Florence K. Little.
Okay, we don't go back and forth. You can ask after the meeting. Anything else, Councilmember Sell? Councilmember Stevenson?
I went to the Gateway Art Show along with a couple of the other people up here with us, and I was really impressed with the students and their artwork and their thoughts, and it gives me hope for the next generation that's coming out that, a lot of the things that are going on in the world today, they are understanding more than I realized. Again, also excited about the trees this weekend and the pancakes, so hope to see some of you guys out at Florence K. Little or picking up trees this weekend.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Butlin?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you to Carmen and Mayor Chazet for attending the county council meeting yesterday. Thanks for your efforts in the ECHO program. It wasn't denied, it was postponed, which we were hoping we would have gotten it, but I can't explain what happened. So it's a sad state of affairs, but we have to deal with it and move forward. So thank you for your efforts and for both of you going there. I know Shari was there too. I attended last night's First Citizens Academy class, and every time we have this class, I think, oh my God, who's going to come now? And they were so intrigued by the first day of learning about the city. People were here 41 years that had no clue, and there were people there to here 4 months that had no clue, but they were here because they wanted to know. So it was awesome to see that. So they're going to be a very engaging group. Again, Arbor Day is Saturday, Pancake Breakfast Sunday. The following week on the 13th, because we won't be here, is hazardous waste. I know people are asking me, when is it? It's the 13th, here at the parking lot. So I want to make sure we get that. I was away last week on vacation, so I didn't do a lot, but I've been busy ever since. I also want and ask a consensus from the council to direct the city manager, and I meant to talk about this last time, to set up some sort of 501c3 nonprofit, Friends of DeBarry, whatever you want to call it. People are asking me how to contribute to Alexander Island amenities, put benches somewhere. I know we've done things like that before, but I think if we get, we talk about these community groups, and I think this is one of the groups that we should start considering or looking at to put a business plan together on how to do that, and you can probably shed more light. I know we've already talked with him, but just to have consensus from the council to say, hey, yeah, let's look into it further and bring back some business plan or something we can look at, because people are willing to donate and give, and I don't know the best way to do that. Right this moment, we don't have a means to do that. So by setting up a nonprofit, Friends of DeBarry, Alexander, we don't want to call it out, but, something more general for the city. So whatever we do, we can always, people want to give, they can give, and maybe even give them a list of things that they can contribute to help with the costs of Alexander Island, improving that going in the forward, or any other parks going forward, or anything in the city. So I don't know how you want to do that, but that's just my question to everyone. If we can get consensus for the city manager, that would be great, and I'm done with mine.
I can also provide some more information.
Okay, would you provide a little more information, and
Well,
then
there are,
we will seek consensus if there's consensus.
obviously, the most popular one is the Sheriff Foundation.
Right.
Where they set up a separate board. It is associated with the sheriff. Folks donate to that with the 501c3. The board appropriates the money as proposals, not only for the sheriff, but other factors for law enforcement. And they can donate the money wherever they darn well please. The foundation, if you so choose, and we can do a lot of work on this, let's just say we'll just call it the DeBarry Foundation. And it doesn't necessarily have to be tied to Alexander Island. It could be tied to the entire city, where they do fundraising events. They do, some people may, through their passing and heirs, and there's a term for that I can't remember at this moment, but they can dedicate some of their money to this particular foundation when they pass away. There's just a whole slew of things, and then the board decides what they want to do. If they want to give money to the arts, they want to give money to sports, they want to give money to facilities, they want to give money for infrastructure. Depending on what they have, this board, which is independent from this council, this board will be able to raise the money and do various things around the city as they so choose please.
I think that my feedback would be, I think there should be some additional research on the option for a citizen support organization, which is a kind of 501c3. For example, the people who have been talking about the water research facility at Alexander Island, they are a citizen support organization serving DEP. The other thing is a foundation. So the sheriff has there's a foundation associated with the sheriff. Foundations, my elementary knowledge is that foundations have a lot of federally mandated constraints in their operation, as do 501c3s. But I believe that the constraints on a foundation may be greater than a 501c3 citizen support organization. I think the bottom line for me is we need to know more about a preferred structure before we could say, let's do it. My knowledge with foundations had to do with, there came a time, I have a son who had a public profile and charitable money, and the choice was, do we set up a foundation or do we use a charitable gift fund? And we went with the charitable gift fund because of the extra demands for a foundation, running a foundation. So I would just say there's, to my way of, as much as I know, I think that there are a couple of different kinds of structures that could do what you're talking about. So we would need some research done as to what would be the pros and cons and what would be a suggested format. But I would be comfortable if we have consensus to ask the city manager to explore further any appropriate structures and what the pros and cons of those structures would be. Councilmember So, you look like you have a question.
Yeah, so every resident in DeBary donates to Alexander Island by donating to Volusia Forever and Echo. And after Tuesday's night meeting, we see how that works out for the residents of DeBary. They put money in that pot, and those purse strings are tied up with politics and red tape. I will never get in the way of anyone, though, that lives in the city of DeBary or lives in Nebraska, and they just love the idea of Alexander Island. Maybe they grew up in DeBary and went to Gateway, and they learned how to do pottery, and they want to donate money, of their own money on top of
Whatever.
Echo and Volusia Forever or whatever else. I love the idea. Totally love the idea. It's probably going to be a little more difficult than we think it will be. But if possible, I'm all for that idea, because I do think that, there are people out there that have some extra income that may be willing to donate to have a bench of their own on the island or something, a picnic bench, or you name a pavilion. We may need that. The way things are going.
It could be anywhere in the city. I was just thinking that people
Yeah.
are asking right now about Alexander Island because it's very new.
I
It
agree.
could
I
be
can see the
anywhere.
possibility, Rob Sullivan Park, whatever they want to do. So yes, I'm all for somebody
structure.
doing all the legwork
Yeah.
and trying to figure out how we can do it. It's a great idea.
Any input, Councilmember Stevenson?
Yeah, I'm just curious, as far as the city is going to be starting a nonprofit board, or are we just trying to encourage the citizens to start a nonprofit and trying to give them guidance?
I will be able to answer that question in a little more detail once I get some of the information from the sheriff of how that was started, whether they set up the structure and then there's an action that separates it from the city.
Right.
Okay.
And then the board members are appointed, and then that's off they go. I know the sheriff does dedicate some resources to the foundation for clerical work, for various things like that. And so I envision that same thing to occur here as well. that we will probably provide some clerical assistance and various different things like that, so.
I think the idea is interesting. I know that it had been brought up last year when we first were opening up Alexander Island, or even during the purchase process, that a nonprofit would be beneficial to the city, not only for Alexander Island, but also Main Street. And would this also kind of go hand in hand with like a committee, or the nonprofit would not need a committee, or it would be in addition to?
Well, you
It would
need-
be
you-
a separate
committee.
entity.
You need
A separate
A
committee.
separate entity with officers and,
Right.
and
You
what,
need
however,
that.
it would not be operated by the city.
Correct, okay, that's
So-
what I'm just
But I do
clarifying.
think that we need a little more education. I think what the request is, the city manager's time is money. It's our money being spent when he spends time on something. And this is not a single phone call or two, which he does willingly for many projects. This would be something that takes a little bit of time and effort to find out, how does it work? What would the process be, setting up this independent, or in providing the resources for people to set up an independent? Is the preferred structure a citizen support organization or a foundation? All this kind of research is what we would be authorizing him to spend some time on figuring out.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that, a small amount of time to get some answers and then bring it back to
Bring it
us.
back.
You okay with the time spent on it? That's what we're conceding in consensus? To
I
be
believe-
educated?
I believe that this could go and work, so
Okay.
I'm willing to do it.
So he can have some time to spend on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think you have consensus for that.
Thank you.
Anything else, Vice Mayor?
Nope, I'm done.
Okay, I also have a request for consensus. I was at TPO doing my monthly stint with the board there, and we had an event a month earlier where we did not have a physical quorum of the board members, which meant that critical deadline kinds of things for legislative and regulatory processes could not happen officially at the board, and we had to ask the executive committee to act in an emergency basis and then bring back anything for ratification. It was not very good. That is the only time anybody can recall that it happened. However, it brought to mind, what is the proper way to have provisions in the bylaws to minimize this from a chance of happening again? And one of the things that came up was, we have the ability to have an alternate for the named board member. So I'm the named board member. We have never named an alternate, but I would be happy to have a consensus that we will name an alternate. I don't think that this needs to be an agenda item with a formal vote or whatever. I don't think that I have missed more than 2 meetings as excused absences in 5.5 years. So it's not a major time commitment, but the consideration that they are giving is, if there's nobody there for a city, they might ask one of the small city members who don't get a normal vote to stand in their stead and vote for you instead. And that may be okay. I'm not sure that that's the best representation for DeBary. So to date, it would have been something where an alternate could have stepped in perhaps twice in 5.5 years. It's that kind of time commitment. But it is the 4th Wednesday morning of every month from 9 to 11. And there is no meeting in the month of December or July.
And that's in just Daytona?
And it's
Daytona?
at the airport in Daytona. So I guess I am asking for consensus. Is there consensus that we could name an alternate for me in case I would not be there, that DeBary would still have a voice at the table? And if so, is there someone interested in being named as that alternate? And could we have consensus that that person's name be submitted to the TPO as the alternate?
Quick question.
Yes.
Does it have to be an elected official?
It does.
It does,
It
okay.
does. This is the board of directors. It's not one of the committees which have different things. We have staff on the technical committee. We have residents on the bike ped committee. We have residents on the citizens advisory committee. But for the board members, it must be an elected.
And you're required to name this person in advance? You can't just? if
No,
it comes
it's
up-
not like we'll send somebody, we'll give you their name. No, we have to have somebody named as an alternate.
Yeah, I think that that's a good idea, just in case
Okay.
it shows up.
I'll volunteer.
Okay, perfect. Unless there's interest elsewhere. So we have consensus that William Sell will be the alternate, and you can transmit that information to the TPO. And then we have the belt and suspenders for the DeBerry representation. Thank you very much. Just quickly, we don't need to belabor this, I was at the Congressional Arts Show. It was a lovely event, as Councilmember Stevenson has mentioned. I did attend the county council meeting for hours yesterday morning. I was at the Citizens Academy last evening, which was, as the Vice Mayor says, a really encouraging group again. I'm looking forward to the upcoming tree giveaway. And for those in the audience, the trees that are provided to us by Duke Energy. We generally do not know until the day of or the day before what trees they are generously giving us. So, in the past, there have been some river birches. There commonly are crepe myrtles.
Crepe myrtles.
There have been some, what else have I gotten? There have been
Oak, holly.
There have been Yupon holly.
We won't know until.
But we really won't know until Saturday morning when the trees arrive. Generally, it's 2 per resident. I assume that's what we're doing
It's
this
1
year?
per resident.
1 per resident? Okay.
I
One
think there's
per re- yeah,
200,
you're
it's 1
right.
per resident, there's 200 trees coming.
1 per resident, and it could be anything. But when we have multiple kinds of trees, they usually deliver at least 2 kinds of trees, we do ask, which one do you want? And then we give that, whatever you want, until we run out of that one, and then we say, we only have whatever left, would you like a whatever? And that's how that goes.
And it is first come, first serve.
And it is first come, first serve. It starts at 8. It rarely goes longer than 9:30. It's a very popular event. So with that, that's the end of my comments this evening. City Manager, do you have anything to report?
I do. Just want to welcome Rick Geller to our dais, and he will be serving at the second meeting, taking Gift's place at our second meetings from here on forward. And so you'll see him quite often. I'd be remiss that on this FP&L agreement that you just approved, all the work that Kurt Ardeman and his staff has done on this FP&L agreement. And Rick, if you can relay that to Kurt, that we
Yes.
really appreciate that. We spent
Down to the very last word.
Yes. Each word on that agreement has been scrubbed and scrubbed over and over again. And Kurt and his staff was absolutely fabulous in supporting me and the negotiations in this endeavor. So if Kurt was here, I would say it to him, but he's not here tonight. But if you can pass that along, that he did a marvelous job in supporting the city and me and getting a conclusion. So
Yes.
thank you for us.
Will do.
And communicate the council's appreciation as well.
I sure will, Mayor.
All right, City Attorney, do you have anything to report?
No, just that I'm happy to step in here for Kurt today, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone more often.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
With no additional business, we stand adjourned.